Hello, today I wanted to go over 3 builds I have for Nekros here. All 3 of these builds, they use 3 normal yellow casting speed shards and 2 Tower Forge red ability strength shards. However, if you want to sort of condense these into 2 yellow casting speed shards, you can, and use this 5th slot for whatever you want. Whether that be more casting speed, more ability strength, more parkour speed, equilibrium shard, up to you. So, for the first build here, this is sort of a general use build. Very tanky, using adaptation, Shield of Shadows. This gives us 90% damage reduction. This gives us another 90% damage reduction, as you have 7 up at a time, and I believe you need around 12.5 or 12.8%, something like that, to get that 90%. So you'll have, again, 99% damage reduction already from these 2. We got an extra 1200 health, bringing us up to 1570 health with this. Then we get that extra 1000 armor and 10,000 overguard from Circumvent. Plus, this also acting as armor strip, although we don't really need it as we have Terrify here. Terrify with gross projection, you only need 137% strength for full armor strip, so we have more than enough for that. If you want to bring the strength down, you can. It'll just reduce the Nourish status weighting and the damage of your shadows. So it is up to you. This build is going to be mostly focused on doing damage with your weapons, as this build will be focused on dealing damage with your shadows, and this build is sort of focused more on just looting. So, speaking of weapons, I'm using Bratton Prime. This is ideally in Karnan, but I do not have the Genesis yet. This is Jewel Toxrica, can be whatever you want, and I'm using Falcor here. I'm using Falcor because I'm using Eclipse on another build. So Eclipse is very good with glaives because it double dips. This is just a very general melee influence build. I believe it is Ninjase's build. For companion, I am using Panzer Vulpaphyla. Even though I'm using Nourish on this build, Panzer is good for Hunter Recovery to give us healing as we are health tanking, as well as the Viral is good for the other builds I am using to apply that 4.25 times damage boost. Here is the claws. So, I mean, this is just sort of a general Nourish build here. Pop our Nourish, pop Terrified Armor Strip, and sort of just kill things. But I mean, again, this does not have its Incarnate mode on it. Once you kill stuff, you can spawn in, although these guys are paused, so will these guys be paused, but yeah. That's great to get more drops, although we do not have any drops Simulacrum, so yeah. So just a very basic, generic build for him. Focused mainly on just surviving with that high survivability. So the main build I actually use is this build here, which I call the Sword Necromancer build, as it's focused on buffing our shadows from our 4 as much as possible. So we have Eclipse with Total Eclipse, as this does apply to our shadows, so with all of our Kamisado and Madurai Dash buffs up, this gets well above 100%. We have Blessing with Shield of Shadows again, just to get some survivability, so we still have the 90% damage reduction from this, plus the 1200 health from this. We have decent range, decent duration, still, again, enough strength so that Terrify one-shots. We have Summoner's Wrath to boost the summons, the shadows, by another 75% damage, and Kamisado to get that 20% movement speed, as well as, because they will constantly be attacking, we will constantly have that 60% ability strength for us. But yeah, if you want to put Eclipse on 1 instead, and still want to use this for looting, and you want to put what is it called? Despoil. You can replace Equilibrium and then do something like I said before, put the Equilibrium shard here. It is up to you. I find this to be more comfortable though. Yeah, for this build, I will need to unpause these guys to kill them. So like I said, you use a glaive. If you are using Eclipse, use a glaive. Eclipse applies to glaives multiple times, and you insta-kill things like that. So let's get our guys up. I'm going to pause them here, or else they will just run to the corner, and you won't be able to actually see them through damage. But yeah, obviously alone they still do damage, although I do recommend still obviously attacking and not just sitting there and letting them kill everything. Because when you start doing damage as well, obviously sort of does. You can do a lot more damage than them with your Eclipse. Not to mention, Eclipse will also apply to all of your 3 other teammates in the match, so that is why it sort of works out with the lower survivability on this build, because you will just be doing way more damage and your teammates will be doing way more damage. But yeah, so the final build here, this is sort of a loot-focused build. This is sort of my iteration on Ninjase's loot Nekros build from 2 years ago, using Petrify here. So with 308% strength, we get nearly 100% from Orgaze. The low duration does not matter, because that's still 15 seconds on Petrify, which is more than enough time to kill things. Again, we got Circumvent for the survivability with Blessing. So basically this build's main survivability comes from your CC from Terrify, your CC from Orgaze, and then the defenses you get from your Circumvent, and your health from Blessing. This is really just put into very high strength to get that nearly 100% from Petrify, and then Terrify sort of applies to, or sorry, Desecrate applies to whatever we don't get from Petrify, so it covers that extra last 1%. Because we're running both of these, if you do want to reduce the strength, you can. As like I said, Desecrate applies to whatever Petrify doesn't apply to. So right now, Desecrate's only really applying to 1% of things. Oops. Sort of armor strip, 3, 4, and kill stuff. Obviously, well, I'm realizing can't really tell here, but yes, it does work that way. Take my word for it. I'm realizing there is no drops here, but yeah. This Desecrate only applies to things that Petrify does not apply to, so they do technically not stack. So, like I said, if you want to run less strength, you can. I just find that I like Petrify is more sort of consistent, and also is a good CC, so I run the high strength. But yeah, that's sort of 3 builds here. General use, sort of more weapon focused. Necromancer, sort of both summons and then the glaive focused. And then loot, which is sort of just full CC, getting loot stuff. This is very good, obviously, with other loot frames, just so whatever they aren't getting their bonuses from, you're getting it on there. Typically, these loot things like Koras and Hydroids, Domes, and Tentacles don't stack with these typically, so yeah, it's basically whatever you're missing out on or whatever they're missing out on, you're then taking advantage of with the high 99% drop chance. But yeah, that is it for Nekros. Thank you for watching.